Iran's blockade of the Straits of Hormuz. 23rd of June, 2025. Iran's decision to blockade the Strait of Hormuz, which commenced at 04 local time, UTC plus 3:30, on the 22nd of June, 2025, marks a dramatic escalation in its standoff with the United States and its allies, transforming a long-simmering regional crisis into a direct threat to global energy markets and maritime security. As the world's most critical oil choke point, the Strait sees approximately 20% of all global oil consumption, around 21 million barrels per day, pass through its narrow waters. Any disruption here reverberates globally. Verified, Iran Standard Time, IRST, is UTC plus 3:30, and the blockade was announced and began at 04 IRST on 22nd of June 2025, equivalent to 0:30 UTC. Background and causes. The blockade follows a crescendo of tensions between Iran and Western powers over U.S. airstrikes on Iranian territory, ongoing hostilities in Gaza and southern Lebanon, and Israeli air raids on Damascus and Aleppo. Iran had repeatedly warned that continued Western support for Israel's military operations and sanctions over its nuclear program would not go unanswered. The blockade, therefore, is both retaliatory and strategic. Tehran's leadership declared the blockade a defensive necessity, citing violations of its sovereignty and the illegality of foreign military presence in the Persian Gulf. Analysts widely interpret this move as an attempt to leverage Iran's geostrategic position to force international powers, especially the EU and China, into pressing the US and Israel to de-escalate or negotiate. Military and strategic details. Iranian forces, including the IRGC Navy, have deployed fast attack craft, mines, and anti-ship missile batteries across key coastal areas, drones and surveillance aircraft to monitor traffic and intercept foreign vessels, sea denial tactics, including live fire drills and the threat of boarding and seizure of commercial ships. At least nine commercial oil tankers en route to Asia have already turned back or diverted, and 5 major shipping insurers have declared the region a war risk zone. The U.S. Fifth Fleet, based in Bahrain, has increased its presence, dispatching 2 carrier strike groups, 4 Aegis-class destroyers, and mine countermeasure vessels to patrol the southern approaches. NATO has convened an emergency session, and joint task forces with Gulf Cooperation Council GCC navies are preparing contingency routes via Red Sea pipelines and Turkish terminals, although these cannot fully compensate for the loss of Hormuz traffic. Economic and global impacts. Oil prices have surged to $138 per barrel, with futures markets pricing in further hikes if the standoff prolongs. Shipping premiums and freight costs have jumped by over 70% for Gulf routes. Asian economies, especially India, Japan, South Korea, and China, which are highly reliant on Gulf oil, face immediate inflationary pressures. The global energy supply chain, already stressed by the war in Ukraine and climate-linked disruptions, is facing compounding shocks. Political reactions. United States, President Biden condemned the blockade as an act of aggression and vowed to restore freedom of navigation by any means necessary, hinting at the possible invocation of the Carter Doctrine. United Nations, the Security Council, is deadlocked, with Russia and China urging restraint and dialogue, while France, the UK, and the US push for a resolution authorizing naval action. GCC states, caught between alliance obligations and fear of Iranian retaliation, countries like Qatar, Oman, and the UAE have called for a diplomatic resolution, but are quietly coordinating with US forces. Risk of escalation. The blockade risks tipping the region into a wider war. Miscalculations or a single spark, like the sinking of a ship or loss of American lives, could unleash a multi-theater conflict from the Red Sea to the Levant. Israeli officials have signaled that Hezbollah, already mobilized in the north, could act in concert with Iranian strategy. Meanwhile, Yemeni Houthi forces have threatened to target vessels in the Bab al-Mandab Strait, potentially closing another vital trade artery. 1. Short-term military confrontation. U.S.-led forces forcibly reopen the strait, risking Iranian retaliation across the region. 2. Negotiated de-escalation. Back-channel talks via Oman or Turkey could lead to a phased easing of the blockade in exchange for guarantees or easing of sanctions. 3. Prolonged standoff. Iran maintains the blockade intermittently, creating global economic strain without a full-blown war, turning the strait into a pressure valve of geopolitical bargaining. Conclusion. The blockade of the Strait of Hormuz by Iran is not merely a regional incident, it's a strategic pivot point. Whether the crisis spirals into a broader war or is diffused diplomatically will depend on the resolve, restraint, and realism of all involved powers. One misstep could cost not only billions in trade, but also lives, legitimacy, and peace. A heartfelt light. To every soul whose hand did give, you've helped me dream, helped me live. In darkest hours your light came through, with hearts so kind, so pure, so true. Your gifts, like stars in deepest night, have steered me gently toward the light. Each coin, each word, each silent prayer, a thread of hope, so rich, so rare. My eyes once dimmed now seek the skies, and slowly, clearer visions rise. Because of you, I dare to see the world again. Its grace, its plea. Your compassion's flame will not just stay with me alone. It lights the way for others wandering through despair to feel the warmth of selfless care. You've shown what love in action means, in quiet ways through giving scenes. You've built a bridge from soul to soul and made the broken feel more whole. So let this thanks rise like a song, a melody both soft and strong. May your example gently call more hearts to rise to give. To fall into the joy of lifting pain, of planting hope where none remains. Your kindness walks beside me still, a light, a love, a living will.
Don't forget to hit that subscribe button to show your support.